45th Chess Olympiad, round number 4, and we already have very interesting matchups, and one of them was Ukraine versus USA. So, of course, US was considered a huge favorite in this match, but what happened was, Fabio won his game against Andrei Volokidin, then Anton Korobov crushed Ray Robson, and then we had a draw on board number 3, where I guess Ponomaryov played against Linier Dominguez, and on board number 2, Vasily Ivanchuk was playing against Wesley So. So Ivanchuk is the legend of chess. Alright, he just crushed every single top player which exists, and of course he's looking to, get his team a win in this matchup. So we have Nimzo on the board, d5, knight f3, d takes c4, queen c4, b6, and look, because I've been playing this line with black pieces for many years, I know that black are quite solid here, and most of the time the game ends in a draw. So we see bishop g5, bishop a6, queen a4, queen d7, and that's exactly where most of the draws happen. Knight d7, knight bd7, and black experience no problems. And we know that Wesley is, most of the time, he plays very solid, he's not rushing with any stupid decisions, he's just, playing for a draw, let's put it this way, but sometimes he's lucky to win the game. Not lucky, but he proves that he can win the games as well. So c5, rook c8, rook d1, queen s7, queen a4, b takes c5, and now h4. So, it looks weird, right? White skin is in the center, the skin is already castled, and white push h4 trying to stop some attack. c4, basically restricting the queen of the king side. Rook h3, Vasily is going for attack clearly, he goes rook h3, his idea is to go maybe rook g3 at some point, h6, queen c2, he doesn't care, this bishop is under attack, so the idea is that after takes, Wesley can move his knight, because basically queen h7, queen h8 is coming with the checkmate. So here knight d7 would have been played, and then there's even some move like g4, or just simple take, and basically black have no problems. But knight d7, knight d4, slight mistake by Vasily Ivanchuk, and here bishop b7 was played, bishop d2, a5. So computer gives a slight edge, not a slight edge, on this level it's actually a huge edge to black pieces, because basically the skin is doing absolutely insane thing. It won't be castled as this rook has moved, this rook has moved. The only way for Vasily is probably do artificial castle through f to g1, queen c5, bishop e3, c3, takes, and we got into the following endgame, where white have two bishops, but still they're kinda underdeveloped. Bishop c1, bishop a6, and now e4 takes. And at this point it looks like black are at no risk, their position's quite solid, this rook's on open c-file, and it's hard to imagine that a player like Wesley So can actually lose this game. Bishop b2, rook c5, bishop 4, knight b6, rook h2, knight c4, in e1. So, Wesley is active, and here we got into, absolutely equal endgame. Rook c3, hitting the pawn on a3, potentially, hitting pawn on f3, a4, rook a3, rook b6, rook d8, now rook b5, g6, knight b3, threatening a5 pawn, rook c8, in a2, rook c4, rook d8, this, g5, and knight e4. So Wesley here, he could play takes, and then go for knight h7, hitting g5 pawn. So the idea of Vasily is probably go for this, trying to stop checkmate, but if rook goes right now, knight g5 will be played and the king will escape through f6. So instead of going for very complicated lines, knight e4 was played, and here Wesley thought that, and computer thinks as well, that black are at no risk once again. Takes, king h6, takes, and now rook a4, and now this pawn will fall as well. Knight d4 was played, rook a2, king g3, rook a3, knight f3, and here rook e2 was played. So at this point, this would maintain equal position, but somewhere here, I believe, rook c3, and then rook c7 just come back, and if rook goes to b7 right now, there is rook a2, knight to this, and now basically this game ends in a draw. But after knight d4, rook a2, knight f3 comes back, and now rook b7. And here, this king on h6 feels some, exposure, because basically the knight blocks g5. If this pawn moves, there is rook h8, checkmate. So rook e5 was played, not giving up a rook, because there's technically a pin, but rook f7, g5. So the idea here, let's say rook f5 is played, rook h8 is a checkmate. So black gotta protect from a checkmate. The only move right now would be something like rook f3 or g5, what was played in the game. But now there is h5. And the idea of h5 is very simple. Still, rook h8 checkmate is being threatened, and the king h5 is being played, rook f6, and here Wesley so admitted his loss, because the only move he has right now is to play rook f3. So if g4, oh, you're hitting the knight and it's a pin, but no, rook h8 is a checkmate, because this square is blocked with this knight. And this is how Team Ukraine beat Team USA, and they're one of the teams who win maximum points in this Olympiad. Let's get to the next very surprising matchup. Another huge sensation came in the match between Vietnam and Uzbekistan. Uzbekistan won the Chess Olympiad 2 years ago in 2022, and of course, they want to repeat their success, and they faced Vietnam yesterday. Vietnam has a very good team, alright, and Tuan Minh Le, also known as Wonderful Time, is one of the best, blitz players on chess.com platform, and they have a very solid team, but Uzbekistan, last winners of this Olympiad, of course, were considered once again huge favorite in this match. c4, bishop d7, bishop b2, again we got a very boring Catalan. They traded queens early in the opening. Rook d8, knight d4, rook c8, and now knight b5. Keeping an eye on d6 square, also keeping an eye on a7 pawn. So black play e5, rook c1, knight a8, h4. So it's like a middle game, but without queens. So it's like middle game endgame. Alright. So it's very important when basically both sides need to have some plan here, and black are a little bit more passive here, white have more activity, bishops are active, knights are kind of active, potential jumps, while these pieces are all just doing nothing. f6, knight c3, even though computer thinks it's technically an equal position, it's a bit more unpleasant for black, as white more or less have squares to put their pieces on, like knight d5 is coming. Might be very tough to play here. Knight d5, bishop f8, rook c1, and here already, alright, here the position is equalish, both sides have nothing, and at this point it seemed like, alright, probably gonna end in some kind of a draw. d6, knight f3, takes, knight e7, knight d4, hitting the bishop on d6. And now black need to do something. They play bishop d7, bishop a3, knight c7, and again, I talked about the passive pieces black have, and it continues to be like that. And when you defend for probably the most of the game, sometimes you get tired of it, and eventually you might blunder, and that's what happened in this game. Rook d1, bishop a4, first kind of mistake, but it doesn't look like a mistake at all. Now g6, bishop d6. The idea of bishop d6 is simple. Let's say a6, something is played, then there is h5, and if takes, there is bishop h3. Of course, black necessarily don't have to do this, but we already know that something may happen. And here, knight d8 is a blunder. So, as I said, black played very passive. And of course, knight d8 is another passive move. It looks normal because you don't see how white can win, but it's a great thing to actually you see the position, you're like, alright, why white is winning. So in here you can pause the video and try to solve. It's quite straightforward. Basically bishop e7, and here if something like king e7 happens, there is rook a3, and now black have to move it, and then rook a7 happens. And if bishop is 7, they continue to basically protecting this a3 square from coming. There is bishop d5. And the idea of bishop d5 is that after king g7 looks good, knight f5 is coming, and white are winning the game. The idea is that if king h8, knight e7, basically white just stab a piece, and if takes, there is rook g3, and if king h8 or king f8, there is rook g8, and if king h6, knight f5, king h5, bishop f7, checkmate. So after knight f5, black resigned the game, and Team Vietnam won. Surprisingly, for maybe some of you it's not a surprising result, but for me it is. And Team Uzbekistan is losing its first match of this Olympiad, and let's get to the wild match that happened between England and Georgia. This game probably was the last game of yesterday's round, as Nicolosi Kucherava was playing against David Howell. What's interesting, I played Nicolosi maybe in 2018 or 2019 in European Chess Championship. We were both young. It was, I think it was under 16 European Chess Championship, and in the first round I was paired against Nicolosi. He was, I guess, the first or the second seed of the tournament. He didn't end up winning that tournament, but I remember he did pretty good. So he was playing against David Howell on board 1. At this point Georgia was leading 2-1, so 2 games finished in draw, and on board 3 Bahadur Jabava defeated McShane, I guess. And this came down to David Howell, who should have done something interesting in this game. And I mean, it was wild. We'll get to the middle of the game and I'll explain what was happening throughout the match. So Karakan on the board. I actually played a match against David Howell recently. You can check out the video I posted a few weeks ago. 97. I traded him for this Olympiad, guys. This is why he's now winning, because Romka just trained him for a while. Takes, knight b6, knight f3, knight d5, knight e4, queen a5, bishop d2, knight b4, takes. So equal position somewhat. Knight c5 was played. Computer thinks it's a mistake because takes and long castle, and computer actually think that it is very favorable for black pieces, as here still no castle this side, no castle long side, because blocking everywhere, so a bit unpleasant. Computer thinks that's very good for black pieces, but again I would consider this a bit risky maybe. So knight f5, a4, queen b6, rook c1, a5, gb, rook d8. This position looks very boring. Honestly, I'm looking at it and it's like not a big deal. Rook d1, rook d5, putting the pieces in the center, rook d8, rook d3, queen a6, queen c4, and here b5, and black up a winning position. So we'll see why. Queen c6 takes, and b takes a4, knight d2, and picks up pawn on d4. And at this point, black are up a pawn. White have potentially weakness on b2, and this knight gotta be protected, and also this knight protects this pawn, so it's very hard to play here with white pieces. And at this point it looked like David is going to win convincingly, but as you can see on the time it was very low, hard time pressure. So according to computer, rook c1 is a very strong move, just pinning kind of. I'm not sure what was missed, maybe some knight a5 tactic, but there is bishop e1, king e2, and then takes, and bishop g3 picking up this, basically keeping an eye on both of the pawns. So I'm not sure what was missed, but king h7 was played, f4, rook d1, king f2, king g6, king f2, and rook d1 is a blunder, because here after f5 the game probably could have ended in a draw. So again, Nicolosi had 5 minutes, and rook d1, basically, look for tactics. f5, king can take because knight f3 fork, and of course king either has to go to h6 or h7, but then you just pick up this, and I think you're at no risk because this pawn creates enough counterplay for white to finish this game in the draw at the very least. So that didn't happen, as here king e2 mistake, rook e1, this, rook f1, king g2, and now rook b1 back. King f2 again, king h7, and basically David was trying to find a plan. At this point, time control hit, they were added more time, and guys, this game ended on move 113, so we're at move 43. We'll have 60 more moves, 70 more moves in this game. Rook c1, finally hitting this, rook c6. So at this point, David is completely winning. Computer thinks rook c5 is for some reason a better move, which honestly doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because let's say knight c4, bishop d4. Alright, computer thinks, oh, whoa. That's why computer thinks it's a good move, because white are not on time, and then f3 a2. So David of course missed it, rook c6, bishop d2, knight d4, king g8, and once again we had some wild endgame. The players hustled for a while, and at this point it's getting better for white pieces, as David made few mistakes and position soon became actually drawish. And at this point Nicolosi had to basically stand with a draw and hope that basically David won't find his chances, and that way Georgia would have won the match. But here, once again, they were moving back and forth. David was of course figuring out the way to win this endgame, but it's very hard, and only like again 60-50 moves later Black were able to secure insane win. So let's see how it happened. Knight c3, king d4, king c5, so players were hustling around. I mean, position is absolutely drawish. So at this point, no side is just winning. Black can win it. Knight c3, knight e2, knight c1, knight e2, and at this point it looks like, alright, probably it's gonna be a draw. Knight f5, king d7. So it's a very interesting thing. So yeah, 5 makes a draw. Probably Nicolosi could have just, going back and forth like he did, but f5 actually allowed to create some counter. But of course here computer says before, and the idea is that after takes, guys, if you don't know this rule, basically this square is different to this, and Black are not able to promote this pawn. Basically this king coming to h1 and nothing can be done about it. So knight h4, hitting the pawn on g6, g5, and now knight g2 was played. So according to guys who were commentating, knight f5 is best according even to computer, because after this, but you might say knight g7, but guys, this actually loses the game. So still there are a lot of tricks, but after knight f5, king e6, there is b4, and let's say, I don't know, king f6 or something, then b5, g4, and knight h4, king g5, knight f3, and white are able once again to secure a draw, because king is coming to h1 and Black are not able to promote this pawn on h5. So, but here knight g2, still a draw, but here king f3 was the final mistake. So once again b4 should have been played, and after g4 there is, I think there is even this, knight f4, okay, knight f4 actually loses, I'm dumb, so there is b5, bishop g3, then b6, h4, and knight f3, white are able to make a draw. That didn't happen, and after king f3, g4, Black's position is winning. So king g5 once again would have resulted in knight f3 check here, even though now computer thinks it's actually might be a good move. Somehow it might be winning for Black. There is a difference in the lines I'm showing you. So bishop a1, knight d4, now pawns start pushing knight f3 last streak, but unfortunately this knight f3 now doesn't work, because after takes, this king is not able to come to h1, because once it goes here, or once it goes here, this pawn will start moving and promote itself to h1. So of course b4 was played, b5, and after king d6, white admitted their loss, and this match finished in draw, 2-2 England and 2-2 Georgia. As here, basically, let me show you what could have happened. b6, this, and now this king has to move, and unfortunately they're not able to stop this on time. So, I mean, very fascinating round. Let's see how the team's doing after 4 rounds of play. So, as you can see here, Team India won their another match, their first. I mean, there are a bunch of teams with 8 points right now. So as you can see, India, Spain, China, Vietnam, Azerbaijan, Poland, Hungary, and Ukraine. Then we have Norway with 7 points, Team Iran, Team Canada. Canada is doing some magic there so far, Turkey, and then we have a bunch of teams with 6 points. Actually, I mean, a lot of from place number 13 to actually 50. That's insane. So we will see some great matchups as you're watching this video. We'll probably start having some fun. Hopefully top players face each other, and of course long-awaited matchups, India and China, might happen in the next few rounds. So let's see how it goes. I'll see you in the next rounds, in the next recap tomorrow. Bye bye.